Good afternoon, Colts fans. My name is Tom Williams, and this is my first ever calling it the Colts Corral. Reason I wanted to start this podcast is I want to talk true Colts fans and get your views on what happened in the season. What do we need to do to fix things that definitely have to fix? Um, get your views on current current roster, the players we have, players we need to get signed, players we need to let go of, or free agents that we need to get into the bill. But the main thing is to talk to real culture. Not talking about the fan base that's out there screaming on Facebook and you know wants to get rid of Carson as soon as he throws a pick or fire Coach Reich because the play doesn't go as well that it's called. Those I don't want to talk to those. I want to talk to the real. This podcast is. Um, I've seen a lot of podcasts. I've watched a lot of podcasts, and some of them are very good. Some of them are very interesting. They bring up good topics, but it's all the same kind of. It seems like it's all the same narrative about Carson's horrible. Need to get rid of him. Uh, you know, there's much more. I've been a Colts fan since they first came to Indy. At that time, back in the early '80s, I was bartending, and I was bartending in a club down in Indianapolis tends where it turns out most of those Colts players on that first team that came to Indianapolis would come and have a good time on Saturday nights. So I got to meet a lot of those players. Went to several games. Those players would give us tickets to the old RCA Dome, and we would go and have a great time. Uh, Partied with those guys. They would come into the club during the week or on the weekends on Saturday, definitely not on Sunday. But got to know a lot of them, and I've been a Colts fan ever since. So I've I've been here through the dog days. Those weren't those those weren't good Colts teams back then. We all know that. But I was around then when we drafted Peyton and went through 14 wonderful years with Peyton. And we've, in my opinion, except for a couple seasons, we've been a legitimate team ever since then. And I want to talk to I want to talk to the bandwagon jumping fans. I heard a line the other day. When it's sunny outside, everybody is on board. But when it gets a little cloudy and gray and rainy, everybody jumps off and runs on to something. And I know there are a lot of fans out there like me that will support the Colts regardless. This is our team, and we want to see what's best for them. Yes, they're not perfect. They make mistakes just like we do. Um, but let's see if we can't grow from this season and get better next season. So we're going to kick this podcast off. We're going to talk about Carson Wentz. We're going to talk about the quarterback position and what we think. I think, love to hear from you on what you think, what we need to do at the quarterback position. There's a lot of different narratives out there on what the Colts can do. A lot of, oh, dream scenarios, if you want to say. That we can, for one, we can go out and get Aaron Rodgers. Two, we could go out and get Russell Wilson. Three, we could go out and get, Desean Watson. All right, first things first. As most of you know, none of those players are free agents. All those players are under contracts. So if, I know we've all seen the tweet from Jim saying, We have to have an offense that scores over 30, and we have to have a defense that will keep the opposing team under 30. Great quote, great tweet. What does it mean? Does that mean that, done with Carson? Does that automatically mean we're going to go out and get one of these quarterbacks? I I've thought long and hard about it. I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while, but I've been sitting back, kind of listening to everything, what everybody's been saying, and try to formulate my own opinion of what's going on. And earlier this morning, I was reading a post on Facebook. I think it was on Colts Nation or Bleed Blue Nation, one of the fan pages on Facebook about the Colts. And a gentleman brought up the fact that, he had just been diagnosed with COVID and that, he had a couple days during that span where it was really rough. It felt like crap. But then he started feeling better physically. His body started feeling better, but his mind, he was like, he said that even after the 5 days or even into, week two, his mind was still foggy. He couldn't think straight. He couldn't, things weren't, they were just off. And myself, I've had COVID, and it's true. I was down with it probably for almost a month before I felt back to normal. Yes, and it's just right. You get sick. You have a couple days where you've got the chills and you're feeling bad. You got to run a fever, and then you start feeling better, but you have no energy. You are lethargic. Your mind is in a fog, and it it's true. And for those people of you that have had COVID, you can understand what I'm talking about. So I look, listening and reading that post, I started putting the pieces together, and it's like, because I've been thinking about what happened in the Raiders game and the Jacksonville game. What happened? Because that team that I saw play wasn't the same team that I saw beat the shit out of the Patriots, beat the shit out of the Bills, beat Arizona with all backups, and you know, then we got what we got when we played Las Vegas, and of course Jacksonville. So I started thinking about that post and was like, you know what? Granted, I'm not a professional athlete, never have been, never will be, but I know how I felt mentally, and I was just wondering, maybe it's true. Maybe those guys were suffering the after effects of COVID because they had no energy. They had no. I mean, they just looked like a completely different team. Carson himself, he had COVID. So, I think it's time that, Chris Ballard said it best. This is the time where we all have to just step back, look at the big picture, see what's best for the shoe. Um, you don't want to make rash decisions when you're still upset and mad. You don't want to make decisions that are going to cost you in the long run or ruin your, draft capital for the next 10 years because you were mad and upset over one season. So you go out and you make a bunch of deals that, you know, just ruin your draft capital or chances to get good players in here because you have no money for the next 10 years. So, okay, but QB1, what are we going to do? Um, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson. Those are the three marquee quarterbacks out there. Now, are they, for one, like I said, they're still under contracts with their current team. Aaron Rodgers has another year left with the Packers. Russell Wilson has 2 years left on his contract. Deshaun Watson has 2 years left on his contract. So none of those guys are free agents. If we were to pursue one of those quarterbacks, the Colts are going to have to offer those teams something to get those players. We don't have a first round draft pick this year, so that's off the table. So what could we offer him? You're talking 2023 first round pick, 2024 first round pick, and more than likely one of our good players that we currently have on the roster. Is I look at it with Aaron Rodgers, granted, MVP. Love to have him on the Colts, but he's not going to be. If he would come here, he's not going to be here forever. He's 38 years old. He's contemplated retirement before. Say he comes here. What are we gonna? We're gonna have him for 2 years, two maybe 3 years. Um, is it worth it? You're not going to have first round picks for the next 3 years. You're getting away one or two of our best players to get him. Are we gonna? Will it make a difference? In my opinion, no. Uh, it's too much. We don't have the draft. It'd be different if we had two first round picks this year and a high second that we could offer just for this year. If we could put a deal together for draft capital that we had available this year, fine. Go ahead, make the deal, take a chance, see what happens. But when you're putting together a deal that might hamstring you for the next 5 years or longer than that, the risk is outweighs the reward, in my opinion. Um, Russell Wilson, he's under contract for another 2 years. Um, it's been said that he wants out of Seattle. We don't know. He said that last year, playing with Seattle. So let's say he does want out. He wants, and he agrees that he would want to come to Indianapolis. I kind of hard to see that. His wife, I don't think she'd want to live in Indianapolis. She wants to live close to the West Coast and her whole career. But let's say they do. What are you going to have to give up to give Russell Wilson? You're looking at the same kind of package that you have to put together to get Aaron Rodgers. Seattle's just not going to hand him over to you. So, you know, I think we've got a 5% chance on either one of those quarterbacks. Third one, Desean Watson. I think we have a less than 5% chance to get Desean Watson. Great quarterback, young. He's going to be around for a while. He would probably give you 10, 15 years if you get him on his roster. But one, he's still under contract. Two, he's got a huge contract money-wise in Houston. Three, I doubt if Houston would be willing to trade him to a, a divisional opponent. That's not. They're not going to do that. I mean, granted, they need players, they need draft picks, but they're not going to trade their best player, even though he's not going to play for them again. They're not going to trade him to the Colts to make the Colts better, so we can turn around and beat the shit out of them for the next 10 years. That's not. So eh, we've all seen the free agent list out there for quarterbacks. Nobody on that list makes me want to jump up and down. Kirk Cousins, is that an upgrade from Carson Wentz? Personally, I don't think so. Jameis Winston, upgrade? No. Uh, Fitzpatrick? No. I don't know who else is available. Jimmy G, if he wins the Super Bowl this year, we're not going to be able to get him. But to me, Jimmy G is not, what has he done that's better than Carson? I think a lot of it with Carson, personally, if I were the Colts, I know some of the bandwagon fans, they're not going to want to hear this. But if you sit back and you think of the big picture and what's best for the Colts and what's going to get us over the hump, to get us where we want to be. I know what Colts fans want. We were spoiled when Peyton was here. We were. We had Peyton, we had Marvin, we had Edgerrin, dominant. We were, you know, it was a foregone conclusion that we were going to make the playoffs. We were the best regular season team in history. Um, but when we got to the playoffs, it was a different story. But anyway, we were spoiled as football fans by having Peyton and those guys for so long. Then we got Andrew Locke. He was going to be the next coming of Peyton Manning, and started out great, but good old Ryan Grigson didn't know how to protect him. Andrew got the shit beat out of him and decided enough was enough. I don't blame him one bit. So then Jacoby was there. Jacoby was a great backup, great team player, great locker room guy. Love to have him on the Colts. Would still love him to love to be for him to be on the Colts. But he was not that starter that is going to take us to the promised land. We got Philip. Philip came in. He did a great job last year. 11-5, got us to the playoffs. Damn near beat the Bills, but we didn't. So we traded our first round. We traded the first and second round picks for Carson. Of course, the first has become a first since Carson played over 75% of the snaps. So we're basically our first and third round picks are gone to Philly, and we have Carson in the building. So I think back what Carson went through this year. The man didn't. We didn't have an off season. That was changed by COVID and all the screwy rules and all that stuff. People just in the NFL, people in general, we need to get over this crap. COVID is COVID. It's going to be around forever, just like the flu. People are going to get it. You're going to get sick. You're going to fight through it, and you'll be fine. It's not going anywhere. It's like the flu. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. So we're going to have an off season this year. We're going to have OTAs. We're going to have people in the building all year round. We got to give Carson a chance to have that full off season with the team. We got to give Carson a chance to have a training camp, a full training camp without being injured, not him having to go have surgery and miss 2 weeks of training camp for his foot. Um, no, and it was not just him. Uh, Several of the offensive line were hurt during training camp. We were like a field hospital training camp. People were dropping like flies left and right. So that put us behind the eight ball right from the start this year. Um, so we weren't sure with the left tackle. We signed Fish, but Fish was coming off a blown Achilles. So there you're one of the most important line positions. He wasn't in to work with the team on the in training camp. He wasn't able to. Um, Carson wasn't able to work with any of the receivers, and in my opinion, we were just behind the eight ball from the start. So I think if this coming season in 2023, if Carson has a full off season with the Colts, has the training camp, OTAs, training camp with the Colts, with the receivers, our running backs, we don't need to touch that. We got JT, we got Naeem. We're good at running back. We got Desean Jackson, nice looking kid. We're set at the running back position. Marlon he's gonna be going somewhere else, but the running back room is set. I do believe we definitely need to get another wide receiver in the for the Colts. There are several good free agent wide receivers we could get. Um, Chris Godwin's out there. There's, Michael Thomas from New Orleans. New Orleans is hurting. They're $71 million over. Yeah. Imagine that. we could be like New Orleans. We could be $71 million over the cap, and we'd have to we'd have to have a fire sale for all of our good players. But Thomas, I thought he was one of the most dominant receivers in the NFL. Not last year, he was hurt, but the year before, he was dominant. Love to get him in here. Michael Pittman is going to be a star, but he's not right now. To my opinion, he's a number two receiver. He's not that legit number one. Take the top off the field, burner number one wide receiver threat that say like Kansas City, Tyreek Hill. He's a threat every time he touches the ball. Every time he's on the field, he's a threat. All he's got to do is run down the field, and half the defense goes with him. So it opens up the whole field for Patrick Mahomes to throw it to whoever he wants. We need some dynamic receiver like that. That would make a huge difference. That would open up the running game even more, and JT will run wild over the entire league if we had somebody like that. Um, Tight ends, still waiting to hear what Jack Doyle's going to do. I would love to see Jack come back and play his last year of his contract. Still think he's productive. He gets you those hard yards. He will get you that first down. He's Mr. Reliable. He blocks. JT got a lot of big runs this year because of a block that Jack Doyle threw. I think we would miss him terribly. Mo Alley Cox, I like Mo. Mo has that size. He's a mismatch for most any linebacker or corner or anybody's trying to cover him. The man's like 7'6" and 400 pounds. He's huge, but he can jump. He had some drop balls this year, but I think Frank, they need to get him more involved in the offense. And I liked what I saw from Kyler Granson this year. I think he's going to be a good kid. I think he's going to grow and get him more involved in the offense. So again, our tight ends, I don't have a problem with our tight ends. Definitely need a wide receiver. Running backs are set, and I say we keep Carson and give him one more year. He has one more year left on his contract. So let's give him a chance. Let's see what he can do. If he still, you know, plays the same way that he did this year and we get the same results, then after the 2023 season, we can say goodbye to Carson Wentz. Doesn't cost us a dime. We don't have to lose any more. We don't have to give up any picks to get another quarterback in here. And at that time, maybe, who knows what quarterback will be coming out in the 2023 draft. This year, I haven't heard anybody that's really, standing up and pounding on the table for any of the quarterbacks coming out this year. So, this isn't the best year for quarterbacks coming out of the draft. So, you know, in the big picture on the offensive side of the ball, I still think the best position for the Colts would be to keep Carson, give him the weapons that he needs, a dynamic wide receiver, maybe two, um, bolster the tight ends, keep Jack if he wants to come back. If Jack retires, then we definitely need to go out and get another tight end. But if Jack stays, I think we're set at the tight ends. Our, you know, the line, we're always looking for that long-term position, that long-term answer at left tackle. If there's not one out there that Chris Ballard and company feels like is the long-term answer in the draft, then unfortunately, we band-aid it again for this upcoming season. Do we bring Fish back? He's a free agent. We could re-sign him, or we could go out and try to get someone else. So on the offensive side, I think that's where we need to go. Save us a lot of money. We don't have to give up the house to try to go out and get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. I think that would just hamstring us for the next several years if we did that. On the defensive side, we've got Quiddy and we got Dio, two rookies. I've heard this comparison many times this year. That Colts fans, they want, as soon as we draft or bring in, excuse me, two rookie defensive ends, they want them to be just like Robert and Dwight. That's not that's not going to happen, folks. I would love it if that's what happened, but Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney don't grow on trees. We were very lucky, and again, we were very spoiled in that during that time where we had those guys for several years, and you have to have a pass rush. Um, I wish we wouldn't have got rid of Danico Autry, but we did. When Danico was here, he he played much better this year for Tennessee than he did for us. I mean, he was a good piece. He was a good backup, but he wasn't anything to write home about. But as soon as he started having success down in Tennessee, then everybody was like, "Oh, you should never got rid of him." I think we should have kept one of those guys, him or Justin Houston. I think it makes a difference when you have a veteran presence on the defensive line. We have Buckner, of course, and Defoe's great. I hope he's a Colt till he retires. Um, but we need pass rush. I think Quiddy and Dio, they're going to grow into great pass rushers, but it's going to take them time to develop, unfortunately. And we need answers now. We need somebody that those kids can grow under and learn from. So I think we need that's something in free agency that the 56th Street needs to go out and look about getting a veteran pass rusher. How about I've heard that, Cameron Jordan from the Saints, they might be willing to do that. Or actually he's a free agent. We could sign him because the Saints are in trouble, folks. They've got to get rid of some players. They're way over on the cap, and we could pick up a few from them. So maybe we could go out and get a Cam Jordan. Great, he had 12 and a half sacks last year. He would produce from the start. He's 31, so he's getting to the end of his career. But hey, if we got him at a good deal, he could give you 2 or 3 years, and it would give you an instant pass rush. So there's a possibility. But we definitely need to get uh, defense a pass rush going next year. That's something, in my opinion, they need to address in the free agency. And we've got our two rookies that we drafted last year that can grow in the system and develop. And maybe in 2 or 3 years, they will be as dynamic as Dwight and Robert were. Linebackers, Darius. Yeah, you can't replace Darius is here to stay. Our other linebackers, I like Zaire. I like, um, oh, I can't even think. I like our linebacking core. Um, we're like, the Colts have always been known as linebacker university. So we could get another linebacker. We could get we'll probably draft one. We could get pick one up in free agency. But I don't think linebackers are our biggest need. Um, we need Ben Banigou. He's probably gone. We could replace him. I think, but like I said, linebackers not our biggest need right there on the defensive side. Pass rush, definitely. Safety position, we've got Blackman's coming back. Blackman's a hell of a safety. We're good there, but we need to get somebody else. I don't think Sandeo will be back, so we need to look at a safety and corners. We're always looking. We always need corners. Uh, you can never have enough good corners. Excuse me. Kenny Moore's awesome. Again, but that goes back to my whole COVID thing. Kenny did not look the same in those last two games. Something was off. He did not play his best ball. Something was going on there. I think Xavier's going to be gone. He had a 1 year contract. I doubt if they re-sign him. He's on the twilight of his career. TJ Carey, same thing. Twilight of his career. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. I really like what I saw from Rodgers. I think he grew up in front of our eyes. I think he did towards the end of the season when they put him in. I thought he did a great job. Um, Rock, I don't know. My opinion, I'm still out on Rock Ya-Sin. There's sometimes where he makes great plays, good coverage, but then he still makes a boneheaded PI call that he shouldn't do or he didn't need to do and costs us. So we can always use better corners. I think we can draft some corners, but I think it would also be worth looking into uh, an established veteran corner in free agency. Stephon Gilmore. Wouldn't that be nice? Let's pick him up. He's a free agent, though. So who knows? Maybe we could get him. Um, so, you know, that's my nutshell of what I would do if I was the GM. Thank God I'm not the GM. And, after looking at all the posts on Facebook and all the podcasts, my God, we must have 750 GMs of this team. It's unbelievable. Everybody, I guess, the cap isn't real and we just have a unlimited amount of money we can spend and we can be the next New Orleans Saints and be $70 million over the cap. You can't do that, folks. That's not going to happen. You know, they're not going to go out and do that. Um, I think personally, I think Chris Ballard has done an awesome job. I understand his philosophy that he wants to build from within. He believes in the draft, and he doesn't have a problem with going out and getting free agents, but you got to get the right ones to come in here. Just because a free agent's out there that has been, has a big name, but also that big name comes with a big price tag, doesn't mean they're going to be a good fit on our team. You got to get the right one. Perfect example of that, bring in Defoe. DeForest Buckner was the right person for our locker room, for our team. That is the definition of a good fit. And they made that move. And I think bringing in Carson was, at the time, I was excited. I thought, Frank could turn him around and and we saw glimpses of that this year. You know, cannot state enough that, Carson Wentz is tough. The man played with two sprained ankles. I know many quarterbacks that sprain one ankle and they're out for 3 weeks. Carson played through, you know, the whole the first 4 games, I think it was the third game where he did that, or second game where he sprained two ankles, and the next week he was out there playing. So the man's tough. He ran for several first downs. He extended plays with his legs. That's something, we're not used to seeing around here since Andrew was playing. That's something that Peyton never did. So there are qualities, and the kid, he's got an arm. I'm sorry, but Carson, he's got an arm. I saw a lot of downfield throws that you know we didn't see from Philip last year. Philip definitely couldn't move around in the pocket. Philip dropped back. The defense knew exactly where he was. You can't do that with Carson. Carson will take off. He can run for it. So I mean that's a plus. Um, I think Carson just he I don't know what it is. He definitely needs to work on the accuracy. That Las Vegas game, That was a perfect example. When we got the ball back, they had that short pass to Ty. Ty was wide open. If Carson would have got him the ball, it would have been a touchdown, and we would have gone up by 10 points, and we didn't do it. He overthrew him. I know when I watched Chris Ballard's end of season post or conference news conference, and he said Carson just needs to learn to make the layups, and he's right. That's what Carson needs to learn. Excuse me, dogs back having fun. So if you hear that in the background, that's what that is. Um, but Carson needs to learn to make the layups. You don't always have to make the big play on every play. Um, I think something else, he needs to take to learn how to take the check down. There are several plays where he's looking downfield, but yet, JT was wide open out of the backfield, or Naheem, or he had one of his receivers, Pascal, something, on a short out where he could have hit him. You get the ball into our playmakers' hands and let them do what they do. You don't always have to go for the long ball, or you don't have to try to always fit it into a tight window. Just take what the defense will give you. We've got the running game. If we can open up our passing game and improve that and get the short passing game going, those long shots will come. It'll open up the running game. Defenses won't know how to play us. They're toward the end of the season, or after the middle of the season, the defenses knew exactly what we were going to do. We were going to run the damn ball. And Carson couldn't, I don't know what it was, but he just I don't know. He couldn't hit those short passes. He would overthrow people. He would that he needs to work on, no doubt. Carson's not perfect by any means. But do I think that he's worth giving another year and letting him have a full off season and a full training camp and working with his, receivers that we have? Get a couple important. Get two dynamic wide receivers in here. Ty.'s going to be. That. I'd love to see Ty stay, but I don't see that happening. I think Ty's going to hang it up. I'd love to see Ty come back as the receivers coach, kind of like what Reggie did when he retired. But you're going to have Zach Pascal. You're going to have Michael Pittman. You're going to have Des Patman, um, Michael Strawn, which I think that kid's got a lot of upside. But, and they took the right approach with him. Everybody, that's one thing I saw all year. Why isn't Michael Strawn playing? Why isn't he playing? He looked good in preseason, but the kid did not play the last year in college at all. He sat out because of COVID. And so he came from a small school. So, and Chris explained it. He wasn't ready to, he needed a year to get caught up to learn how an NFL offense runs, the routes that he needs to run in the NFL. So I'm anxious to see what happens this year. I think that kid's got a big upside. He's tall, he's fast. That could be exciting, but we've got to have that deep threat. We've got to have that deep, and that's what we're missing. Zach Pascal's that type of. He's always gonna get those dirty yards across the middle of the field. He's gonna get that first down for you, but he's not a deep threat. Um, Dez, I mean, we saw Dez at the end of this year make a couple good catches. Um, we had James Doolin, a special teams guy, came in. He looked good at sometimes, but I don't know. We've got to find that fine balance between running the ball, passing. You got to have both. You got to be able to pass the ball to win in this league. We got the run. We got the most dynamic runner in the league, but you got to be able to pass it too. Because if people know you're going to run the ball, they're going to stack the box and they're going to try to stop the run. And if we had a passing game to back that up, if they tried to stop the run, watch out. We could be, we could, we could relive those Peyton glory days back in the '90s and 2000s. So that being my first podcast, I just kind of wanted to just go over what my feelings are for the whole team, what we need to do. Uh, I will address other things as the weeks go by. I plan on doing these once a week, maybe more as we get used to this. Um, but just I I know there's a lot of there's a lot of bandwagon fans out there, and I think Colts Nation gets a bad rap sometimes because people see these idiots on there, you know, fire this person, fire that person, get rid of him, get rid of that. It's like, no, you don't do that. Um, so I just wanted to start a podcast so maybe I can talk to real Colts fans like me out there, get your opinions on things, get your comments, send me your email me your questions, and I'll talk about that question on my next podcast. Colts Corral 22 at gmail.com. You can send me an email. I will question on the next podcast. We'll go live here shortly on YouTube. We'll post this on YouTube. Um, and once we do a couple of these, we'll actually do this live on YouTube, and we'll take comments. We'll answer questions live. We'll come up with a definitive time every week that we're going to do these. And, during the off season, we can have good conversations about where the team's going, what we're doing, the free agents that we signed, who we're going to get in the draft. That's always an exciting time. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. Going into training camp, how's the team look? You know, excitement always builds when OTAs and training camp starts. And I want to experience that and bring that to you guys. So, again, my name is Tom Williams. This is Colts Corral, and my email address is coltscorral22 at gmail.com. Send me your comments, send me your questions, and we'll talk about that next week when we do our second podcast. Take care, Colts fans. Talk to you soon.